There's a new study that says parents who shout at their children or call them stupid are leaving their offspring at a greater risk for self-harm, drug use, ending up in jail, depression, and all the negative things that could happen to a person that afflict so many that we've talked about. Why everyone is dealing with these things, who knows? Maybe this will give us some answers. Experts say that talking too harshly to children should be recognized as a form of abuse because of the huge damage that it does. Here's this chart, because there's multiple things that they say could happen to folks that negatively happen to folks once they grow up. And the red line in this chart is are adults who were verbally abused as children, and that gray line underneath each ones are adults that were not abused as children. It says not abused. I'm not sure if they mean not verbally abused. I assume it means the same thing. So from that first one, feelings of low mental well-being, seemingly off the charts with the red line as they were verbally abused, versus the gray line, cannabis use, binge drinking, time in prison, victim of violence, and perpetrator of violence. I believe like the victim of violence is kind of out of their control. Whether they've been abused or not, that's someone else that's coming. But still, I understand the point here. So the authors of the study into these behaviors say adult to child perpetration of verbal abuse is characterized by shouting, yelling, denigrating the child, and verbal threats. These types of adult actions can be as damaging to a child's development as other currently recognized and forensically established subtypes of mistreatment, like childhood physical and sexual abuse. That's what the academics say in their paper in the journal Child Abuse and Neglect. Now, more children experience childhood verbal abuse than physical or sexual abuse, as you can probably imagine. And the number who encounter it, it's about 40% and growing. I'm sure everyone has had some contentious discussion or disagreement with their parent at some point, specifically in teenage years. And we see that as the normal. But this level of verbal abuse stretches probably before any of these confrontations, and just probably an adult who didn't have much nurturing around either. This is from The Guardian, so there's some UK numbers behind this. That UK chart that we talked about, here's those numbers. The study examined existing evidence of the impact of childhood verbal abuse. One recent paper involved in a representative sample of over 20,000 UK residents found that those who had been verbally abused were almost twice as likely, 19.9%, as those who had not, about 10%, to use cannabis, and at most double the risk of ending up in jail. 4.4% those who had not, 2.4%. Asked what the most hurtful and upsetting words they expressed were, this is the money part, children cited terms like you're useless, you're stupid, and you can't do anything right. And in contrast, the most positive things they heard adults say were, I'm proud of you, you can do it, and I believe in you. So, Brett, you don't have any children that you know of. So,
I have 2 barn cats outside that I am very kind to, but continue.
Yeah, that's the thing. Are you screaming in their faces? You tell them you can't get the catnip. You guys, by the way, you guys still have the strays. Oh God. But when it comes to children, my kid is 11 going on 12. And he naturally is a little bit like self-inflicting of he's the hardest critic on himself. So we don't have to really say or do much, but I can imagine even if kids are a little tougher or have a wall up or just feel they have this freedom and they don't have to listen to anyone else, I feel like those types of terms end up making things worse.
Absolutely. Like I was a child long ago. My take from what I have a lot of friends. I mean, I don't have any children, but I know a lot of friends who do. And what I've learned is that there are so many things beyond your control that can affect your children. But there are many things within your control that can affect your children. And in the time you're with your children, which hopefully is a lot of time, you have to take billions upon billions of actions and make billions and billions of decisions while spending time with them. And in that time, even if you mess up like 2% of the time and snap and lose your patience, your kid's gonna remember that, and they're gonna answer a questionnaire like this in that way. So it's very difficult. And I can remember the times that my parents got mad at me, though altogether it was a very supportive. I mean, many people have told me, Brett, did anyone ever tell you no as a child? And the answer to that is very rarely. It was a very supportive environment for better or for worse. Some of the things on this questionnaire are like, do you smoke weed because your parents hate you? And it's like, a lot of people smoke weed. I don't know if that's really the main effect, has the main operative decision point influencer, but A lot of this seems pretty intuitive because it's not that it's whether parents are strict or not. It's not whether they establish clear boundaries and are firm but fair or not. It's whether the parents are literally mean to their kids or not. And my intuitive response would be like, you probably shouldn't be mean to your kids.
There's stuff we're learning, man, from cry it out. And that's been a natural, normal thing. Many people say that's what you're supposed to do with your kid when they're like a month old or however old people start doing it. They got to learn to self-soothe. They just got to this world, bro. I think we have sometimes trouble of connecting what it is that a child sees and experiences, especially at ages when they can't speak yet. Especially once they can, they take everything in. You are their lifeline. You're their source. I was telling John before he had his kid, I said, it's going to be the craziest thing when you bring that child home and you go, okay, it's just us. They're trusting me. This human is in my hands and anything I do affects them. And we sometimes forget as that person gets older and we get used to them being in this world. It's devastating what it is that we can do to kids because that's all they've got is us. I really fast before we get out of here, we're done. But I follow this. I watch a lot of these videos of folks on the streets and these street interviewers that ask them how they got there, what experiences they've had in their life, and the trauma and horrific experiences they've had before they made it on the streets and started doing fentanyl and smoking crack and doing whatever it is that they're doing, was the setup for those things. They never got over it. They never had a chance to even talk about it, but they see themselves as less than anyone else. Or they're dealing with some kind of physical or mental trauma like this. It leads to these things, and then we go and bash them for being where they are because someone else did this to them. Let's keep it real.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.